My senior year in high school, I am your average All-American teenage boy, interested in average All-American teenage boy things like having a cool car and taking a hot date to the prom and designing my date's prom dress. Um, I, my senior year, I'm 5'6", 129 pounds, and this might be surprising, but I could not catch and or dribble a ball of any sort. So the fact that I had a date at all was a miracle. My girlfriend's name was Dana, and she was the most beautiful girl that I had ever seen. And we were together most of senior year, and as we got closer to senior prom, we began planning. And when I say we began planning, what I really mean is that I began to sketch what we were going to wear to the prom. Prom was a big deal in my family, and my parents went to the prom together, and several of my aunts and uncles went to the prom together, and all those pictures were up on the family wall. And I knew it was my turn, and nothing could go wrong. And one day I was at home watching music videos, and there's this artist named Christopher Williams who was really popular at the time. And he was this tall, gorgeous man with this great curly hair, and it was this music video called Promises, Promises. And he's wearing this white Nehru collar suit, and he just looks so regal and strong. And I look up at him with my 129-pound self and say, I'm gonna look like that for prom. So I begin sketching this suit. Now, I'm not gonna completely rip off Christopher's style because you can't steal another artist's work, but I'm gonna design a suit that looks kinda like his, but it has my flair. So it's all white, but the sleeves have this sort of satin material that has a sort of paisley design to it. And I use that same material for the trim that's gonna go down the pant leg and to cover the buttons that are gonna go all the way down from my neck down. And you're judging. And you know, just something simple. And for my date, I combed through all the hottest fashion publications of the time to kind of decide what her look would be. And, you know, I'm in the Sears catalog and the Spiegel, J.C. Penney's. And I finally decide that she's gonna wear this mermaid dress, and it's gonna have some of the material from my suit because my suit was the base. And she would have this sort of pink lace overlay at the top, and it would be great. So I couldn't actually draw or sew, so I gave her these sketches and said, you know, go find someone who can make this. And then I took my scribble to my seamstress, slash my friend's mother, and said, do you think you can make this? And she said, sure, give me about a week or so and I can put it together once you give me all the fabric and the things you want. And I said, great. So the plan was in motion. So I had no idea that asking my date to accept my design for her senior prom dress was gonna be problematic, and Dana was not into it at all. So she broke up with me. Now, I wasn't necessarily in the closet at 16 because I wasn't conscious, per se, that I was gay, but apparently I was so gay that I wasn't aware that designing my date's prom dress and a white suit with sort of a pink shimmer that when it hit the light was essentially my coming out quinceañera. So for that whole school year where Dana was my girlfriend, it felt great to just be one of the guys and to feel like I had the things that other guys had and I could have this future and maybe I can get married and have this life. And it was a really powerful feeling because I hadn't had that feeling before. And when she left, it was equally powerful because it affirmed all the feelings that were starting to brew up in me that I was indeed broken and I was hurting. But I had about 50 yards of satin, and somebody had to wear it. So I just asked a freshman who I knew would go, and things just moved along. And the day before the prom, I go pick up my suit from my friend's mother / seamstress, and I take it home and I put it on. And for the first time, I realized that you might need to be able to draw if you are going to design a suit. And it didn't quite work, all the colors and the materials. And then one sleeve was shorter than the other. The pant legs weren't even. The trim was crooked. And my mom is downstairs waiting for me to come down so she can see this suit. So I go downstairs in the suit, and she does her best not to laugh in my face. But after a few moments, she just sort of runs off in her room and just lays down in the bed and like cries real tears. So the suit didn't work. But the next morning I say, well, maybe if I get the curly hair, it'll balance it out. Now, at the time I had what was called a Gumby cut. It was sort of like Bobby Brownish, and it was up and to the side, and I was really proud of it. And I rip out a picture of Christopher Williams from a teen magazine, and I take it down to a salon in my neighborhood that I had never been in because I wasn't a lady. And I take it inside, and I say to the stylist, can you make me look like this? Now, anyone with eyes that functioned should have said absolutely not. But she said, sure. So I sit down, and she begins to work her magic, and she puts the cream in, and she's doing all this stuff, and I'm just sitting there, and at first I'm really excited, but then I start to feel like someone's poured acid on my head, and I'm confused why everyone is still singing music to the radio and reading old ebony magazines when I'm clearly dying in this salon chair. And just before I scream, the stylist runs over and rinses my scalp. And it feels so good. And she turns me around to the mirror, and I don't look like Christopher Williams. I look like Sade. My hair is bone straight, and I am freaking out. And she goes, calm down, we're not done. I said, okay. And she turns me back around, and she starts putting more things in my hair and trying to do something, and then she turns me back to the mirror, and she was right. I didn't look like Sade anymore. I looked like Salt and Pepper. I had this curly bob, and it was awful, and I was about to cry, and she tried a few more things, and nothing was working, and then she looks at me and says, this one's on the house. Do you know how bad your hair has to be for a stylist not to take your money? So I just get up and I walk back down the street singing Push It, and I go to the barbershop where I should have been in the first place, and he does a little something, makes me presentable enough, and I go home and put on my crooked suit, and I take the freshmen to the prom, and we have a good enough time. A few weeks later, the prom proofs come back, the pictures, and my date looks great, props to me, and I look insane. So the pictures weren't ordered, and they weren't given out to family like we normally would do for people at prom time. And worse, I did not make it to that wall. I had failed at being normal again, and it was disappointing. Years later, I'm in college, and it's my senior year, and I hear from Dana again. And we hadn't talked since high school, really. And we started to reconnect, and it felt good to hear her voice. And I started to wonder if maybe we could still have something. But by this point, I kind of knew I was gay, because there had been clues. But I still invite her down to Virginia to visit with me and go to my senior ball in college, and she agrees. So she comes down, and we get all dolled up in clothes that I did not design, and we go to the ball and have an amazing time. And for a fleeting moment, I wonder, could this be my life? But I'm not 16 anymore, and I know that I don't love her in that way. And I knew that I had to let her go and let that life go or that idea go, and that was really rough. But on the upside, the pictures were amazing. And I had the right hair and the right suit and the right date, and that picture made it up to the family wall with my parents and all my aunts and uncles, and I am smiling in that picture. But the truth is, I am terrified in that moment because it was the first time that I had told myself the truth. And I wasn't certain what I was walking into after that night, and I am scared to death. And, we often talk about coming out to other people, but the truth is you have to come out to yourself first. So after all this goes down, I realized that it was okay for me to be me. And as it turns out, I ended up with all the things that I thought that I wasn't going to have when I became my true self. Have a wonderful husband and a home and 2 amazing kids that I love. And it's a beautiful life. And thank you. But as it turns out, that picture of my life now hasn't made it to the family wall either. But that's okay, because I have my own walls now, and I can hang any damn thing that I want.